Let's get back to the mortgage mess for a minute. It seems like a bailout could be in the works for Fannie and Freddie. Not everybody in Congress thinks that's a good idea. Joining me now is one of those people, Congressman Scott Garrett, Republican of New Jersey. Full disclosure, Congressman, I am one of your constituents.
I'm glad to have you. I was my constituent.
No statement about where I voted.
We're on the same page then on the fiscal conservatism of spending and saving then.
Yes, we are, as a matter of fact. We are. But look, I know you oppose this bailout,
right,
the way it's structured. But what would you... If you don't have a bailout of some sort, if you don't have a plan of some sort, you've got a crash in all kinds of financial institutions. And this plan is the only one we've got.
Well, it's the only one we have because things went so quickly. You know, your previous guest, Dave Ramsey, was talking about we need education, what have you. I've always said when we have hearing in committee, we have bills called financial literacy for the American public. I've always suggested that before we have financial literacy for the American public, we need financial literacy for the American Congress, because so many of them just miss the point on these issues. We are right now, in the bill that went through that you're referring to, that was rushed through Congress, no real hearings on it whatsoever, basically came from the same crowd, you know, the Schumers, the Barney Franks in the House and what have you, who were telling us for years, don't worry, there's no problem, Fannie and Freddie will always be stable, we won't never have to bail them out. You know, Barney Frank even said he would not support a bailout bill if it ever came down the pike. But, and here, of course, is where we laid.
It's going to happen. The bill is in place.
Yeah. Well, the bill's passed. It's
passed. It's signed. It's there. It's going to happen. It looks like a bailout will be necessary. I'm not suggesting it's definitely going to happen, but it looks like it's going to be necessary. What happens then? Well, what bad happens
nothing,
when we do this bailout?
That's a good. Nothing good certainly happens. I was one of suggesting when we were trying to craft the bill, and we were trying to get some input to it, I said to the Secretary, are we asking anything back from the industry, from the GSEs? How about warrants, for example? How about treat it the same way that the government treated Chrysler back then? They got warrants were issued at that time, as you recall, and then they actually ended up making money because they, you know, Chrysler said, please don't execute on those warrants later on when Chrysler came good later on, but the government did. They made some money on that. That was never even discussed. Instead, basically what was done, we wrote the Treasury Secretary a blank check, do whatever you want to do, and now that provides for uncertainty in the marketplace, and that's why you have the volatility and the uncertainty going into this potential bailout today, tomorrow, next week.
But nothing bad happens next week, next month, or next year.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Well, from a whole different number of perspectives. If you're an equity holder in it, and this may be a good thing on the one hand or bad on the other, if equity holder...
Okay, you're wiped out.
You're wiped out. That may be a good thing as far as the American taxpayer, that we're not subsidizing them anymore. If you're a manager of one of these companies, hopefully you're not still here next week making the $1 million salaries that you have, but who knows, some of the same people who brought us to the situation may be allowed to stay in here. But the bigger global picture on all of this, of course, is what is the president now setting for the future? You know, the Federal Reserve has already told us that they will bail out just about any circumstances coming down the road. Now we're saying that the federal government is going to step in, write that blank check, and saying, well, for GSEs we're going to bail them out. What about the rest of the marketplace?
Congressman, I keep coming back to it. If we didn't do this, if there was no bailout of any kind, no plan, nothing happened, we just let Fannie and Freddie go under. No mortgages are written. Banks go under left, right, and center, and some Wall Street investment firms. Did they just go under? It's very painful.
Well, there's the word. What we really need, what really has to happen during some sort of a bursting of the bubble, which we had in the housing market, is some degree of pain to the overall marketplace. And what you're doing here with this is perhaps just elongating that pain for a longer period of time. You know, I was just meeting with a bunch of realtors and we were asking them, are we at the bottom of this? Well, we're not. But what you really need to do is, of course, get to that bottom, set a price, a floor price for the housing market, and then begin to climb out of it. So much of what's coming out of Washington right now is basically stretching that out because of the uncertainty and the volatility.
Don't have much time left, but I have to ask you.
Sure.
Would you consider Senator Obama a socialist?
I've heard people describe him as such.
I'm asking you, Congressman.
Well, when you consider a number of his positions, he does take a socialist position on a number of issues as far as nationalization of the economy.
Where is the fiscal conservative in this election?
Well, between the two of them, certainly Senator McCain is the more fiscal conservative. Clearly on the issue of something that I've been involved with, and that is earmarks, trying to say, can we rein in earmarks? He would say he's totally opposed to them. I've tried to pass legislation to rein them in as well. So between the two, that is an easy equation. Senator McCain is certainly the fiscal conservative.
Where's Ronald Reagan when you really need him?
Well, yes, we need another Ronald Reagan.
Congressman Scott Garrett, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate
it. Clearing the air by going underwater, the solution to pollution that can be found in the